Maximilian or Max? Which do you prefer being called?
It doesn't matter. Call me Max. That's okay.
Max. Okay. Max, really love your film. Just first off, what attracted to me to your project was your two lead actresses. I've seen their work. They're really fantastic. And I thought that was a great pairing. What was your thoughts behind casting them as your leads? Because just from their body of work, they've really carved out a great career respectively.
Well, it was a long, very, very long casting process. First we tried to get find actresses who could actually dive or who have experience diving, but it was a lost cause. There's no chance. There are just too few. And then okay, we switched the approach and thought, okay, we have to find actresses who are crazy enough to do this. Because the plan was to shoot it all for real. It's all underwater. So we had to find actresses who are willing to train like months before the shoot and become really experienced divers. And so, yeah. So first we had the casting process, which was especially difficult because of COVID. And then we found, Sophie and Louisa, who I mean, they were so great in the casting and the chemistry was so good. And they actually, yeah, they liked each other also that much. And they kind of became sisters. And then, yeah, then the training started, the diving lessons. And I was actually, to be honest, quite nervous about it because there's this thing with diving, it's a psychological thing. Some people, yeah, they start doing it, but then it's like a switch. If you have one bad experience, you just stop and you can't go into the water again. And especially when you think like, okay, I'm learning diving, but if you have the whole project in your head, okay, this is what I have to do. I mean, this is such a heavy weight on their shoulders. And so we started it really slowly, that they made sure that they really had fun doing it. And this kind of worked. And then they got better and better and better. Then they went to Malta and we met in Malta and we had like, the intense training started. So, and they became really, really good. I mean, they had to because it's everything real. I mean, when they take off the mask and everything, it's all for real. And this is something, I'm considering myself a quite experienced diver, but what they did, it's really quite something. And you have to imagine when you act like terror under or panic underwater, it's very close to the real emotion. And then, and the real emotion of panic obviously is super dangerous underwater. So we really made sure, just because of safety reasons, that that they got to this level of experience. And
And so,
so yeah.
yeah, Max, my cousin is a former diver, and now that he's older, he always posts on Facebook how much he really misses diving. So you're an experienced diver. I'm scared of my own shadow, so I'm not going to do it. But what am I, in layman's terms, what am I missing that you and my cousin and your actors get to experience from diving and becoming experienced divers?
Okay. To promote diving is beautiful. I mean, it's like I always consider it like it's like flying, right? Because you're no gravity, so you're literally flying. But then you're flying on a different, beautiful planet. It's something else. It's your brain is not used to this 3D room and this floating. It's like a meditation, and the more experienced you get, the calmer you get. And then in the beginning you are super excited, yeah, and you waste a lot of air because you're always like, oh, wow, and you want to see everything. But then you get calmer and calmer, and then yeah, it's like I don't know. It's also like, yeah, it's like a meditation. It's like diving in your own kind of subconsciousness in a way. It's beautiful and very calming, and I love it.
Max, you mentioned sort of maybe a state of exhilaration, and we live in a digital age where seeing a lot of CGI and digital effects can really take us to another place on a cinematic level. But is there something also equal regarding exhilaration when you're using practical effects and you're shooting things for real, like you mentioned at the beginning of the interview? What is the wonder and exhilaration behind having everything practical in camera real?
Yeah, I think people feel it. I mean, you can see and feel if it's real. And, I mean, all the shots we did really in the ocean, it's impossible to do that with CGI. I think, I mean, everything is possible, right? But it would have, it would have been a multi-million VFX budget. And this is a low budget film. So we thought from the beginning, the only chance I have to compete with all this like super, what do you think, this sensational VFX and all those crazy digital images is to shoot it for real. Let's see if the only chance we got, because I wanted to capture this astonishing beauty and the vastness and the greatness and this, and yeah, so I hope that people feel that it's all shot for real. There's almost no VFX in it, just the rock fall is VFX.
Yeah. So one of my podcast co-hosts, Bruce, he wanted to ask you a couple of questions. The first question, he says, quote, are all of the improvised attempts to save tested for actual workability?
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty real. That was also the concept. There are no sharks in it. There are no, aliens in it. There are not superhuman strengths in it. There's no Jason Statham in it. It's like it's. I mean, it's sort of accurate. Of course, you find mistakes if you're really going for, as an experienced diver, you can find the things which are not possible. Yeah, let alone the diving sickness. I mean, she would have like when she's diving up the second time, she probably is so sick from the bends that that is one of the mistakes. But yeah, but all the other stuff, when they're changing the tanks and everything, changing the mask, that's all pretty accurate.
Yeah, Max, I was looking at another interview you were doing, and you were talking about how emotion and relating to the characters is probably the most important part of cinema. Why so? When I was younger and more naive, I still love Brian De Palma, but I would just watch a movie just for the visual language and the compositions, and it would be okay if the actors or actresses were just pieces along the puzzle board, or and it was more about the visual image. But as I gotten older, it's more about the emotion. But wondering for you, you're much younger. Where did you learn that it's all about the emotion too, and that's the most important part of cinema, I guess?
Well, I guess every director is drawn to the things you want to see yourself, and like and my greatest experiences now in cinema when I watch a film are the emotions. I mean, I also love cinematography and I love beautiful and elegant shots, but when you, I don't know, when you are in the cinema and your film is screened and you are with the audience and you feel that they are like on their seats or they cry or they laugh. And for me, it's just the most beautiful thing I can achieve. It's storytelling, right? And you want to, in the end, you want to tell something about the human condition, you know, in every genre, or for me at least. And yeah. And I think it's also like the older I get, the more I'm drawn to the emotional side, like you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This seems like just such the hardest film to shoot. I enjoyed it. All I had to do was watch your film. You had to live this movie. I am assuming that your cast and crew really bonded on this film. Is that an assumption? Is that an assumption that I'm making, or is it very true that the fact that because of the harsh conditions and the challenges, you guys really bonded as a unit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's so challenging to shoot underwater and it's so much something else, and well, I can start with Sophie and Louisa. I mean, it was for them, they are the only actresses in it, in a foreign film, right? I mean, all the crew were German and from Malta. So they came from the US and from the UK, and then they really fell in love with each other. I have to say, they became like sisters, and that was so helpful also because they went through it together, and it's a lot about filming under these conditions. It has to do a lot of has to do a lot to do with trust. You have to establish a trustworthy atmosphere so that you can go to those emotional extremes also, because and of course we as a team, I mean, I owe the Maltese team so much because they are like all those divers there, they are so amazing. I mean, they literally live in the ocean, from the ocean, they're like fish. And it was that was really greatest experience to get to know all those guys. And yeah.
Yeah, Max, two final questions. The first question is, just from a filmmaker standpoint, from your standpoint, what is that one element of filmmaker of what's one of the elements of filmmaking that a lot of directors maybe underrate or overlook as far as shooting the film? What in part of the filmmaking process is you think is overlooked and should be paid more attention to along the process?
Wow, I mean, this depends so much. I don't know. It's different from any project. I don't know. I think like one. I don't know. I can't put my finger on one specific element, but what for me is super important is rhythm. And if 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 the rhythm is right, from then you are drawn to something. And if the rhythm is dull and it's not changing and it's like flat, then you lose affection and you lose interest, I think. So yeah, that's something I focus on,
Okay.
also in writing and also in editing, obviously, and also like in shooting. I always think, okay, you have to, every scene has its own, and every scene has to like switch. My English, but
No, no, it's perfect. Before you leave, very quick question, right off the top of your head, can you name one of your all-time favorite movies? And what is about this film that speaks to you, resonates with you?
wow, I mean, I love so many
Yeah.
movies. What's all time? I, you know, I think one of my all time classic is Path of Glory from Stanley Kubrick. This film, I have seen it 100 times, and it affects me always. And I mean, it's so strong. And I don't know, I love Into the Wild was one of the films I really was, shaken by so much. But
And
I love.
Past, that was an early Kubrick film. It's a black and white. Kirk Douglas is a lead. What spoke to you? Why did you pick that amongst his films? It just the
Oh,
subject matter? Sorry.
yeah, the subject matter, definitely the intensity of it, the what's the word, the unfairness of it, the crying unfairness. It was so like, this is so wrong. And then when the German female prisoner sings for the soldiers, oh, Jesus, I got goosebumps when I think about it. I cry every time when I see it.
I just really love the dive. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm looking forward to interviewing you for the next one.
Thank you very much.